slap a sway bar on this thing so it'll finally be stable to drive. I've been driving it around the property. I've got a mud hole out in the middle of the field. I've been slinging mud all the way up to the roof because it's in two-wheel drive right now. But I don't have a sway bar on it, so whenever I get in there and start getting on the gas, it'll be all twisted over, feeling like it's gonna flip. So basically, I just come along, I pulled the back of the truck all the way down so I bottomed out the shocks, and it looks like I still got a bunch of room that I can put my sway bar underneath my subframe, and it still won't, even if the truck's off camber, it still won't make contact with the four-link bars. So basically, I just took these this piece of flat bar, and I'm going to bolt on these billet pillow block bearings, and I'll weld out one side underneath the sway bar or underneath the subframe, and then I'll weld these gussets in it to keep from twisting. Real simplistic design. It ought to be plenty enough for this. It should be stronger than this welded together sway bar. If not, then I'll upgrade this stuff later. But just real simple design that'll keep it tight to the subframes. I've already built me a caliper stand to run brakes on my front yoke off of the transfer case. So I've got two Willwood calipers that mount to that. I'll show that here a little bit later in the video. I don't really have any light or anything. I might put some light so y'all can see that tonight. But now that I know that this isn't gonna make contact with the sway bar, I can go ahead and let the come along up and go ahead and get these pieces welded in so that we got a sway bar. So let's get after it. All right, well, got it in here. The bars are a little shorter than I would like, so I'll probably build my limit straps to max out right before these do. But overall, turned out pretty good. Alrighty, well, last night after I put the sway bar on, my wife told me that there was a meteor shower, so we just drove the Dodge out here to watch the meteor shower. And against my better judgment, I just decided to drive through this real slow, and it started to spin like it didn't want to keep going, so I barely got on the gas, and then I think it stripped out a gear in the transfer case. So I'm glad it happened here, not at an event somewhere. So now I'm gonna hook this to it, and I borrowed my neighbor's tractor over there, and we're gonna try to get this thing back to the house.
Be a monkey first.
Yep. Well, I got this thing back up to the house, and I need to replace my quick change gears. These were angle cut. I don't remember what ratios these were. I guess I'll go ahead and slide them out and get these on order. It was only in two-wheel drive, and this thing broke really easily. Like, those things were made out of glass. So, but the straight cut ones are a little stronger. See, no front drive shaft. All right, so I got the back of the transfer case off, and the whole bottom there is full of metal shavings. And over here, I have the cover, the back cover. So I'm going to spray gasoline in these bearings and try to clean out all the metal shavings and clean it all back up, finish cleaning the gasket surface, throw it back in there, and reseal it, fill it full of oil, and call this job done. So all I had to do is drop the drive shaft, pull all the bolts and the Allen head bolts all out of there, and I left it hanging, so not too shabby. All right, so I am building a front drive shaft. Excuse the mess as always, but I've already cut the tube off of this end, and if you look right inside here where I grinded, you can see that thin line, that is where I grinded the weld off of the tube on this end. I'll tap that piece off. I'll tap them both into this piece of tubing that I'm fixing to cut at the correct length, weld it out, and I'll have a front drive shaft. One thing to know, you make sure that these two universal joints are both straight and square with each other. And then you take a couple of measurements to make sure that it's not crooked so that it don't wobble. And I've done this a few times and I've never balanced them, and I've actually had really good luck. Even on trucks that I've drove well over 100 miles an hour down the street, I've never had an issue. So I think because there's such a long collar on this, it trues it up pretty good, and it's such a small diameter that even if it's a little bit out of balance, it don't shake. So I built the short stub shaft going from the factory transfer case to the drop box, and whenever I put it in there, I put it in gear, let it go through the gears, and it didn't vibrate or nothing. So, and I actually made that drive shaft out of the tubing from this drive shaft here. I cut the section I needed out of it, grinded it all smooth, and put it in there, and it's working out great. So, whew, I'm out of breath. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and tap this end off and take my measurements and weld this together. I'll have a front drive shaft. All right, off camera, I finished out the front drive shaft and bolted it in. And I don't know how, but whenever I bolted up the drive shaft to the drop box, the transfer case back there, I thought, well, I'm probably gonna have to jack the front end up so that I can bolt the front end up. And I could never do this again if I had to, but the bolts lined up perfect. I didn't even have to twist on nothing or anything. The bolts just all slid in. It was perfectly in line. So that's great. And about to see how this thing does. So doing some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. There's no bolts in that. I am doing some sketchy shit. Doo-dah day. All right, well, I got the shocks lowered down to another setting so that the thing would sit more level. I welded on my limit strap tabs. And I ran the forklift out of gas, but luckily I was done, so now I can just let it down. Ooh, that was a tight fit. Well, we made it. As soon as I put it in a bind, I stripped out this transfer case again.
Daddy getting pulled out. Say good job, Daddy. Let's fix it. Tell him that you'll help fix it, Rowdy. There's Daddy.
Current status, using a winch on a Jeep, on the trailer, and my cousin's winch on his side-by-side to pull this beast up onto the trailer because it stripped out the transfer case. So we're gonna go ahead and put a different style transfer case in this thing so that hopefully this doesn't continue to happen and I'll be able to just floor it like everybody else and until I can get it stuck and not just shear the dang quick change gears out like it's done now 3 times in the past 2 weeks. But so we'll get this thing put back together. Another thing I want to mention is I really appreciate the guys that came to me and introduced themselves, told me that they watched the videos and supported what I'm doing here. So thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing more of you guys and same people at the next events or whatever is to come. So appreciate y'all for watching.